It was December 8th, 2026 at 2:47 a.m. when a dream so vivid, so terrifying, so undeniably real drove me from my bed to the Cascada de los Espíritus, the waterfall of spirits, deep in the Costa Rican rainforest. And there, surrounded by the deafening roar of water plunging 300 feet into the mist-shrouded pool below, the air so thick with moisture I could barely breathe, the ancient ceiba trees towering like cathedral pillars around me, their roots gripping the volcanic rock as if holding the earth itself together, Jesus appeared before me with tears streaming down his face and revealed that January 15th, 2026, a date that had already passed in my timeline but was coming for so many others, was not just another day, but the moment when the veil between the spiritual and physical realms would tear open in ways that would separate the prepared from the unprepared, the watchful from the sleeping, the truly devoted from the merely religious. Not everyone who sees this message is meant to see it. Some will scroll past, some will ignore it, some will mock it. But you've been marked. You've been chosen to receive this warning. And what I'm about to share with you over these next 4 nights will either transform everything about how you're living right now, or it will condemn you to be caught completely unprepared for what's coming. Before I go any further, I need you to do something. Right now. Don't wait. In the comments below, type out your prayer request. Whatever you're facing, whatever burden you're carrying, whatever fear is gripping your heart at 2:47 in the morning when you can't sleep, write it down. Because what Jesus showed me at that waterfall wasn't just about January 15th, 2026. It was about you, specifically you. The fact that you're watching this right now at this exact moment is not a coincidence. You've been led here, and I'm going to pray over every single request, every single one. And if you're a true believer, not someone who just calls themselves a Christian on Sunday, but lives like the world Monday through Saturday, if you're someone who actually wants to be ready for what's coming, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel isn't for the lukewarm. It's not for the comfortable. It's for the remnant, the ones who are willing to hear hard truths, the ones who won't turn away when Jesus speaks words that challenge everything we've been taught in our sanitized, watered-down, feel-good churches. You know me as Jonathan Rumi. You know me as the man who was given the impossible honor of portraying Jesus in The Chosen. And I want you to understand something. That role didn't come to me by accident. For years, I've walked a path that I didn't fully understand. I've been in the wilderness. I've been in the valley. I've been broken and rebuilt. And at 51 years old, single, without children of my own, I've had nothing but time to seek his face, to press into his presence, to ask the hard questions that most people are too afraid to ask. The Chosen opened doors I never imagined, but it also opened my eyes to something terrifying. How many people think they know Jesus, but have never truly encountered him? How many people watch a show about him, but wouldn't recognize his voice if he spoke to them directly? That's why what happened to me on December 8th, 2026 at that waterfall changed everything. Let me take you there. Let me paint the picture so vividly that you can feel it, smell it, experience it with me. I had been in Costa Rica for a week, seeking solitude, seeking answers. The dream that woke me that night, I can't even fully describe it. I saw cities, I saw chaos, I saw people I loved, people I'd worked with, people from my past, all scrambling, all confused, all unprepared, and I saw a date burning in the sky like it was written in fire, January 15th, 2026. I woke up gasping, my heart pounding so hard I thought I was having a heart attack. The clock read 2:47 a.m. I knew I couldn't stay in that room. Something was pulling me, calling me. I threw on clothes, jeans, a t-shirt, hiking boots, and I grabbed a flashlight. The lodge where I was staying was at the edge of the rainforest, and I'd been told about this waterfall, this sacred place where the indigenous people used to come to pray, to seek visions. Cascada de los Espíritus, the waterfall of spirits. The trail was treacherous in the darkness. My flashlight beam cut through the blackness, illuminating massive ferns that brushed against my arms, their fronds still wet from the evening rain. The air was alive. That's the only way I can describe it. It wasn't just humid, it was thick, almost tangible, like breathing in liquid. The temperature was probably 75 degrees, but the moisture made it feel warmer, heavier. Every breath was an effort. The sounds of the rainforest at night are unlike anything you've ever experienced if you've only lived in cities or suburbs. There were howler monkeys in the distance, their calls echoing through the canopy like the roars of ancient beasts. There were insects, thousands of them, creating a symphony of clicks and chirps and buzzes that rose and fell in waves, and underneath it all, growing louder with every step I took, was the sound of the waterfall, not a gentle trickle, a roar, a thunder, the sound of unimaginable power. It took me 40 minutes to reach the overlook. The trail opened up suddenly, and I found myself standing on a flat expanse of volcanic rock, maybe 30 feet across, jutting out over the gorge. The waterfall was to my right, and even in the darkness, I could see the white foam of the water as it plunged down, down, down into the pool below. The mist rose up like smoke, catching what little moonlight filtered through the clouds, creating an otherworldly glow. I turned off my flashlight. I don't know why, I just felt like I needed to, like the artificial light was somehow wrong in this place. And that's when I felt him. Before I saw him, I felt him. It was like the air pressure changed, like the temperature dropped 10 degrees in an instant, like every sound in the rainforest suddenly stopped. The monkeys, the insects, even the waterfall seemed to quiet, though I know that's impossible. Then I saw him. He was standing at the edge of the overlook, his back to me, looking out over the gorge. He was wearing simple robes, not the pristine white you see in paintings, but something more earthy, more real. Beige and brown, worn and travel-stained. His hair was dark, shoulder-length, moving slightly in a breeze I couldn't feel. And even though I couldn't see his face, I knew. I knew with every fiber of my being who he was. "Jesus," I whispered. My voice cracked. My legs started shaking. He turned to face me, and I saw the tears. They were streaming down his face, catching the moonlight, leaving tracks through the mist that clung to his beard. His eyes, I can't describe his eyes. They were filled with such sorrow, such love, such urgency that I felt my own tears start to fall before he even spoke. "Jonathan," he said, and his voice was like the waterfall and the silence all at once. "Do you know why you're here?" I shook my head. I couldn't speak. "Because you asked to see," he said. "You asked to know. You asked to be shown the truth, no matter how hard it was to bear. And now I'm going to show you. But I need you to understand something first." He took a step toward me, and I felt like I might collapse. What I'm about to reveal to you about January 15th, 2026, is not for everyone. Most of my church, most of those who claim my name, will reject it. They'll call it fear-mongering. They'll say it's not biblical. They'll say you're being dramatic, that you're seeking attention, that you've lost your way. "Then why tell me?" I managed to ask. "Because there's a remnant," he said, and his voice broke. "There's always a remnant, and they need to be warned. They need to be prepared. They need to understand that January 15th, 2026 is not just a date, it's a threshold, it's a point of no return. It's the moment when everything that has been hidden will be revealed, when every compromise will be exposed, when every false foundation will crumble." He gestured to the waterfall, and suddenly I could see it differently. The water wasn't just water, it was time itself, cascading forward, unstoppable, powerful, inevitable. "Time is like this waterfall," he said. "It flows in one direction. It cannot be stopped. It cannot be reversed. And January 15th, 2026 is the moment when the water reaches the pool below, when the descent is complete, when the impact comes." "What happens on that day?" I asked, my voice barely audible over the roar. He closed his eyes, and more tears fell. "The separation," he said, "the great separation that I spoke of in Matthew 25, the sheep and the goats, the wise virgins and the foolish virgins, the ones who built on rock and the ones who built on sand. It's not a rapture, Jonathan. It's not a physical removal. It's something far more profound and far more terrifying. It's the moment when the spiritual reality becomes so undeniable, so overwhelming, so inescapable that every person on earth will have to choose, truly choose, not with words but with their whole being. And most," his voice broke again, "most are not ready. Most think they are, but they're not." He raised his hand, and suddenly the mist from the waterfall began to swirl, to take shape. I saw images forming in the vapor, clear as day, real as life. I saw a church, a massive church, thousands of people, hands raised, music playing, lights flashing. It looked alive, it looked powerful. But then Jesus waved his hand again, and I saw beneath the surface. I saw the pastor counting money in his office. I saw the worship leader scrolling through dating apps during prayer. I saw the congregation members, so many of them, thinking about their jobs, their problems, their weekend plans, their mouths moving in worship, but their hearts a million miles away. "They think they're ready," Jesus said, his voice heavy with grief. "They think because they attend, because they sing, because they serve on a committee, that they know me. But I tell you the truth, Jonathan, on January 15th, 2026, when the veil tears open, when the spiritual realm becomes visible, when demons and angels are no longer hidden, when the true state of every soul is laid bare, these people will cry out to me and I will say, I never knew you. The image in the mist shifted. Now I saw a man, middle-aged, well-dressed, sitting in a coffee shop with a Bible open in front of him. He looked sincere, he looked devoted, but then the image zoomed in, and I saw his phone beside the Bible. I saw the notifications. I saw the compromise. I saw the secret sins he thought were hidden. I saw the pride in his heart, the judgment toward others, the belief that his knowledge made him righteous. This man has studied my word for 20 years, Jesus said. He can quote scripture, he can debate theology, he can win arguments, but he has never surrendered, he has never died to himself, he has never let me break him and remake him. And on January 15th, 2026, when the truth is revealed, his knowledge will mean nothing, his degrees will mean nothing, his reputation will mean nothing, because I look at the heart, and his heart is still his own. I was weeping now, openly, uncontrollably. Lord, I said, what about me? Am I ready? That's why you're here, he interrupted gently. That's why I'm showing you this, because you're not ready either, not yet, but you will be, if you listen, if you obey, if you do what I'm about to ask you to do. The wind picked up suddenly, violently. The trees around us began to sway, their branches creaking and groaning. The waterfall seemed to roar louder, and the mist rose higher, engulfing us both. I could barely see Jesus through the swirling vapor, but I could hear his voice clear and strong. January 15th, 2026 is the day when the comfortable Christianity that has infected my church will be exposed for what it is, a lie. It's the day when those who have been playing church will be separated from those who have been dying daily. It's the day when the cost of following me will become real, tangible, undeniable. And most, his voice rose above the wind, above the water, above everything. Most will not be willing to pay it. The mist began to clear, and I saw him standing there, his hand outstretched toward me. Tomorrow night, he said. Come back tomorrow night. There's more you need to see, more you need to understand. This is only the beginning, Jonathan. The warning must go out. The remnant must be awakened. Time is shorter than anyone realizes. And then he was gone, just gone. The wind died. The waterfall returned to its normal roar. The sounds of the rainforest came rushing back. The monkeys, the insects, the rustling of leaves. I stood there on that volcanic rock, soaking wet from the mist, trembling from head to toe, and I knew that my life had just changed forever. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. Time felt different, elastic, unreal. Eventually, I made my way back down the trail, my flashlight beam shaking because my hands wouldn't stop trembling. When I got back to the lodge, the sky was just beginning to lighten in the east. It was almost 5 a.m. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in my wet clothes, and I opened my Bible. I didn't know where to turn, so I just let it fall open. Matthew 7:21-23. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. I closed the Bible and put my head in my hands. The weight of what I'd just experienced, what I'd just been shown, was crushing. How was I supposed to share this? Who would believe me? Would people think I'd lost my mind? Would they say I was being sensational, that I was using my platform from The Chosen to spread fear? But then I remembered his face. I remembered his tears. I remembered the urgency in his voice, and I knew I had no choice. The message had to go out. The warning had to be given. January 15th, 2026 was coming, or had already come for some, and the church, the body of Christ, was not ready. Listen to me. If you're still watching this, if you've made it this far, it's because you're meant to hear this. You're part of the remnant. You're one of the ones who can still be awakened, still be prepared, still be made ready for what's coming. But you have to make a choice. Right now. Today. You have to decide if you're going to be like that massive church I saw in the mist. All show, no substance. Or like that man in the coffee shop. All knowledge, no surrender. Or if you're going to be something different, something real. Something that will stand when the veil tears open and the truth is revealed. Tomorrow night, I'm going to share with you what Jesus showed me on the second night at that waterfall, and I'm warning you now, it's going to be harder to hear. It's going to challenge everything you think you know about what it means to be a Christian. It's going to expose the lies we've been told, the compromises we've made, the comfortable faith we've built that has nothing to do with the Jesus of the Bible. But you need to hear it. We all need to hear it, because January 15th, 2026 is not just a date, it's a deadline, and the clock is ticking. Drop your prayer requests below. Subscribe if you're serious about being part of the remnant, and come back tomorrow night, same time, because what Jesus showed me on the second night at Cascada de los Espíritus will shake you to your core. You've been marked, you've been chosen. Don't waste this warning. I didn't sleep that day. How could I? After what I'd witnessed at the waterfall, after what Jesus had shown me, sleep felt like a betrayal. I spent December 9th, 2026, in my room at the lodge, pacing, praying, reading scripture, and wrestling with the weight of what I'd been asked to carry. The images from the mist kept replaying in my mind, that church full of people who thought they were ready but weren't, that man with his Bible and his hidden compromises, and the tears on Jesus' face. Those tears haunted me more than anything else. As the sun began to set that evening, painting the rainforest canopy in shades of orange and crimson, I felt the pull again, stronger this time, more urgent. It was as if an invisible hand was gripping my chest, drawing me back to Cascada de los Espíritus. I checked the time, 7:34 p.m. I had hours before our appointed meeting at 2:47 a.m., but I couldn't wait. I had to go. I had to be there. The trail was different in the twilight. The rainforest was transitioning from day to night, and I was caught in that liminal space between worlds. The howler monkeys were settling down, their roars fading to occasional grunts. The daytime birds were giving way to the night creatures. I could hear the distinctive call of the potu bird, that haunting, almost human-like wail that the locals say sounds like a lost soul crying out. The temperature had dropped slightly, maybe to 72 degrees, but the humidity remained oppressive, wrapping around me like a wet blanket. I moved faster this time, my flashlight beam dancing across the trail. I knew the path now. I knew where the roots jutted up, where the rocks were slippery, where the ferns grew so thick they formed a tunnel. My heart was pounding, but not from exertion, from anticipation, from fear, from a desperate need to understand more, to see more, to be prepared for what was coming. When I reached the overlook, the sky was still holding on to the last traces of daylight, a deep purple blue that made the white foam of the waterfall glow like liquid moonlight. The roar was just as deafening as the night before, but somehow I was more attuned to it now. I could hear the individual notes within the thunder, the way the water hit different rocks, the way it churned in the pool below, the way the mist created its own whisper as it rose. I walked to the edge of the volcanic rock platform and looked down. 300 feet. The pool below was dark, almost black in the fading light, but I could see the white water where the falls hit, the way it boiled and churned before flowing out into the river that snaked through the jungle. It was hypnotic, terrifying, beautiful. "You came early," his voice said behind me. I spun around, and there he was, Jesus, standing in the exact same spot as the night before, but this time I could see him more clearly in the twilight. His face was still wet with tears, but there was something else in his expression now, something harder, something that looked almost like anger mixed with the sorrow. "I couldn't wait," I said, my voice shaking. "Lord, I've been thinking about what you showed me last night. The church, that man, the separation. I need to understand more. I need to know." "What you need to know," he interrupted, his voice cutting through the roar of the waterfall like a blade, "is that what I showed you last night was just the surface. The comfortable Christianity, the lukewarm faith, the people playing church, that's the obvious problem. That's what anyone with eyes can see if they're willing to look. But tonight, Jonathan, I'm going to show you something deeper, something that even the so-called on-fire Christians don't understand, something that will make January 15th, 2026 the most terrifying day for those who think they're ready." He walked toward me, and with each step the air grew colder. I could see my breath now, which should have been impossible in the Costa Rican rainforest, but there it was, white vapor coming from my mouth with each exhale. The mist from the waterfall began to swirl again, but this time it was different, thicker, more purposeful. It began to form shapes around us, creating walls, creating a space that felt separate from the rest of the world. "Do you know what the greatest deception in the modern church is?" he asked, his eyes boring into mine. I shook my head, afraid to speak. It's the belief that salvation is a one-time event, he said, and his voice was heavy with grief. It's the idea that you can pray a prayer, walk an aisle, get baptized, and then live however you want because you're saved. It's the doctrine that says once you're in, no matter what. It's the teaching that grace means I overlook everything, that mercy means there are no consequences, that love means I accept you exactly as you are and never require you to change. He raised his hand and the mist began to show me images again, but these weren't like the ones from the night before. These were more personal, more intimate, more devastating. I saw a woman, maybe in her 40s, attractive, well-dressed. She was in a church, hands raised, tears streaming down her face, worshiping with what looked like genuine passion. The music was loud, the lights were dim, and she was lost in the moment. But then the image shifted and I saw her later that same day. She was in a hotel room with a man who wasn't her husband. I saw the justifications running through her mind. God understands. I'm not happy in my marriage. I deserve to feel loved. This doesn't change my faith. I can worship on Sunday and do this on Tuesday. Grace covers it all. She thinks she's ready for January 15th, 2026, Jesus said, his voice breaking. She thinks because she feels my presence during worship, because she cries during the songs, because she serves in the children's ministry, that she knows me. But I tell you the truth, she has never surrendered her will to mine. She has never died to her flesh. She has never counted the cost. And when the veil tears open, when the spiritual realm becomes visible, when every hidden thing is exposed, she will see what I see. She will see the demons that have been feeding on her compromise, growing stronger with every justification, every rationalization, every time she chose her desire over my will. The image in the mist shifted again, and this time I saw a young man, maybe 25, handsome, charismatic. He was on a stage preaching to hundreds of young people. They were hanging on his every word. He was quoting scripture, telling stories, making them laugh and cry. He looked anointed. He looked powerful. He looked like the future of the church. But then the image zoomed in, and I saw his phone in his pocket. I saw the apps he had hidden in a folder. I saw the images he looked at late at night when no one was watching. I saw the pride in his heart, the way he loved the applause more than he loved me, the way he measured his worth by his follower count and his speaking invitations. This young man is considered a rising star in the church, Jesus said, and now there was anger in his voice, righteous anger that made the very air around us crackle with energy. He's been on podcasts. He's written a book. He has 100,000 followers on social media. People call him anointed. They say he's going to reach his generation for me. But I tell you the truth. He is a whitewashed tomb. He looks beautiful on the outside, but inside he is full of dead men's bones. He preaches about purity while drowning in pornography. He talks about humility while consumed with pride. He calls people to surrender while refusing to surrender himself. Jesus turned away from me, facing the waterfall, and I saw his shoulders shaking. He was weeping, not just crying, weeping, the kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that come from a place of unbearable pain. Do you understand what January 15th, 2026 means? He asked, his voice muffled by his tears. It means the end of the hiding, the end of the pretending, the end of the performance. It means that every person who has claimed my name will have to face the truth of their own heart. Not what they've told themselves, not what they've convinced others, but the actual truth, the reality of whether they've truly surrendered, truly died to self, truly made me Lord, not just Savior, but Lord. He turned back to me and his face was a mixture of love and fury that I can barely describe. The church has preached a gospel of convenience, he said, a gospel that says you can have me in the world, a gospel that says you can serve two masters, a gospel that says the narrow road is actually quite wide, that the cost of discipleship is actually quite low, that taking up your cross daily is just a metaphor. And millions, Jonathan, have believed this lie. They think they're saved. They think they're ready. They think that when I return, when the separation comes, they'll be on the right side. The mist swirled faster now and I saw more images. Dozens of them, hundreds. A pastor embezzling from his church while preaching about generosity. A worship leader sleeping with multiple women in the congregation while singing about holiness. A Bible study leader gossiping and sowing division while teaching about unity. A missionary using donation money for personal luxuries while posting photos of poverty. A youth pastor abusing his position of trust while talking about God's love. "Stop!" I cried out, falling to my knees on the wet volcanic rock. "Please, Lord, stop. I can't bear it." But he didn't stop. The images kept coming, faster and faster, until they blurred together into a horrifying tapestry of compromise, hypocrisy, and deception. And underneath it all, I could hear voices, thousands of voices, all saying the same thing. Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we cast out demons? Didn't we perform miracles? Didn't we go to church? Didn't we serve? Didn't we believe? And then I heard his voice, echoing across the gorge, bouncing off the rocks, mixing with the roar of the waterfall. I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. The images stopped. The mist settled. The cold air began to warm. I was still on my knees, sobbing, my hands pressed against the rough, volcanic rock. I felt Jesus' hand on my shoulder, and the touch was so gentle, so tender, that it made me cry harder. Jonathan, he said softly, look at me. I raised my head, and through my tears I saw his face. The anger was gone, only love remained. Infinite, overwhelming, incomprehensible love. This is why I'm showing you these things, he said, not to condemn, not to destroy, but to warn, to wake up, to give people time to truly examine themselves, to truly repent, to truly surrender before January 15th, 2026 comes, because after that day, the separation will be complete, the line will be drawn, and those who have been playing games with their faith will find themselves on the wrong side of that line. He helped me to my feet, and we stood there together, looking out over the gorge. The last light had faded from the sky, and now the stars were beginning to appear through breaks in the clouds. The waterfall continued its endless descent, the water catching starlight, creating a cascade of liquid diamonds. Do you see this waterfall? He asked, gesturing to the torrent beside us. Every drop of water that goes over this edge has a choice. Well, if water could choose. But you understand the metaphor. Once it goes over, there's no going back. It's committed. It's surrendered to gravity, to the fall, to the impact below. That's what true faith looks like, Jonathan. It's not a casual decision. It's not a comfortable addition to your life. It's a complete surrender. It's going over the edge, giving up control, trusting me completely, even when you can't see the bottom. He turned to face me fully, and his eyes were intense, burning with purpose. Most Christians are standing at the edge, dipping their toes in, thinking that's enough. They want the benefits of following me without the cost. They want the promise of heaven without the death of self. They want to be called my disciples without actually doing what I say, and January 15th, 2026 is the day when that illusion will be shattered. But Lord, I said, finding my voice again, what about grace? What about mercy? What about the fact that we're all sinners, that we all fall short, that none of us are perfect? His expression softened, and he smiled, but it was a sad smile. The smile of someone who has heard this question 1,000 times and knows the answer will be hard to accept. Grace is not a license to sin, he said. Mercy is not permission to continue in rebellion. Yes, you are all sinners. Yes, you all fall short. But there is a difference, a massive, eternal difference between someone who sins and repents, who struggles and fights, who falls and gets back up, who genuinely wants to be transformed, and someone who sins and justifies, who struggles and gives up, who falls and stays down, who wants to stay exactly as they are while claiming my name. He pointed to the waterfall again. See how the water fights against the rocks as it falls? See how it crashes and breaks and reforms? That's the process of sanctification. That's what it looks like to be transformed. It's violent. It's painful. It's a constant breaking and remaking. But most Christians want a faith that's smooth, easy, comfortable. They want to flow gently through life, never hitting any rocks, never being broken, never being changed. And that's not the faith I taught. That's not the gospel I preached. That's not the narrow road I described. The wind picked up again, and I could feel the mist from the waterfall on my face, cold and refreshing. The howler monkeys had started up again in the distance, their calls echoing through the darkness. The rainforest was alive around us, pulsing with unseen life, and I felt so small, so insignificant, so utterly unprepared for what he was revealing. Lord, I said, my voice barely a whisper, am I one of them? Am I one of the ones who's been playing games? Am I? You're here, aren't you? He interrupted gently. You came when I called. You're listening when most would turn away. You're willing to hear hard truths when most want comfortable lies. That's why I chose you to carry this message. Not because you're perfect, you're not. Not because you have it all figured out, you don't. but because you're willing to be broken, you're willing to be changed, you're willing to go over the edge of the waterfall and trust me with the fall. He placed both hands on my shoulders, and I felt power flowing through his touch, not the kind of power that makes you feel strong, but the kind that makes you realize how weak you are, how dependent you are, how much you need him for every breath, every heartbeat, every moment of existence. Tomorrow night, he said, I'm going to show you the final revelation. I'm going to show you what happens to those who ignore this warning, who continue in their comfortable Christianity, who refuse to truly surrender before January 15th, 2026. And I'm going to show you what it looks like to be ready, what it costs, what it requires, what it means to be part of the remnant that will stand when everything else falls. He released my shoulders and stepped back. But tonight, I need you to understand this one thing above all else. January 15th, 2026 is not about me punishing people. It's about truth being revealed. It's about the masks coming off. It's about the real condition of every heart being exposed. I'm not creating the separation. People are creating it themselves, every day, with every choice, every compromise, every time they choose comfort over obedience, pleasure over purity, the approval of man over the approval of God. The mist began to swirl around him, and I knew he was about to leave. But before he disappeared, he said one more thing, and his words cut through me like a sword. Tell them, Jonathan, tell them that I love them too much to let them continue in deception. Tell them that the time for playing church is over. Tell them that January 15th, 2026 is coming, and after that day, there will be no more hiding, no more pretending, no more comfortable middle ground. Tell them to examine themselves. Tell them to test their faith. Tell them to ask me, really ask me if they're ready, and tell them that if they're honest, if they're truly honest, most of them will realize they're not. And then he was gone. The mist settled. The temperature returned to normal. The sounds of the rainforest rushed back in. I stood there on that overlook, my clothes soaked with mist and sweat, my face wet with tears, and I felt the weight of what I'd been given. This message, this warning, this burden, this. I made my way back down the trail in the darkness, my flashlight beam shaking worse than the night before. When I got back to my room, I didn't even bother to change clothes. I just fell on my face before God and wept. I wept for the woman in the hotel room. I wept for the young preacher with his hidden sins. I wept for the millions who think they're ready but aren't. I wept for myself, for my own compromises, my own failures, my own desperate need for transformation. And I wept because I knew that tomorrow night, the third night, would be the hardest of all. Listen to me. If you're watching this, if you've made it through both nights of this testimony, you need to understand something. This isn't entertainment. This isn't a story. This is a warning from Jesus himself about what's coming on January 15th, 2026. And the question you need to ask yourself right now, today, this moment, is this. Am I the woman in the hotel room? Am I the young preacher with hidden sins? Am I someone who's been playing games with my faith, thinking that going to church and singing songs and serving occasionally is enough? Because it's not enough. It's never been enough. Jesus didn't die on a cross so you could live a comfortable life with a little bit of religion sprinkled on top. He died so you could die to yourself, die to your flesh, die to your own will, and be raised to new life, real life, transformed life, the kind of life that can stand when the veil tears open and the truth is revealed. Tomorrow night, I'm going to share the final revelation, what Jesus showed me on the third night at Cascada de los Espíritus. And I'm warning you now, it's going to be the hardest message you've ever heard. It's going to challenge everything. It's going to require you to make a choice, a real choice, not a casual decision, but a complete surrender. Drop your prayer requests below. Tell me honestly, are you ready? Are you truly ready? Or are you one of the ones who's been playing games? Because January 15th, 2026 is coming. The waterfall is flowing. The edge is approaching, and soon, very soon, it will be too late to turn back. Come back tomorrow night. Final night. Final warning. Final chance to truly understand what it means to be ready for what's coming. You've been marked. You've been chosen. Don't waste this warning. December 10th, 2026, the third night. I knew this would be the last encounter at the waterfall, and the weight of that knowledge pressed down on me like a physical force. I had barely eaten in 2 days. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those images in the mist. The woman, the preacher, the cascade of compromised Christians who thought they were ready but weren't. My Bible lay open on the bed, pages marked and tear-stained, verses underlined so many times the ink had bled through to the other side. This time, I didn't wait for the pull. I didn't wait for 2:47 a.m. As soon as the sun set at 6:15 p.m., I was on the trail, my flashlight cutting through the gathering darkness, my heart pounding with a mixture of dread and desperate anticipation. I needed to know. I needed to see the final revelation. I needed to understand what it truly meant to be ready for January 15th, 2026. The rainforest seemed different tonight, more alive, more aware. As I walked the now familiar path, I felt like I was being watched by 1,000 unseen eyes. The howler monkeys were silent, completely silent, which the lodge owner had told me was unusual. They always call at dusk, he'd said, but tonight, nothing. Just the sound of my boots on the muddy trail, my breathing, and the distant roar of Cascada de los Espíritus growing louder with each step. The temperature had dropped significantly. It couldn't have been more than 68 degrees, which might not sound cold, but in the rainforest, where it's usually 75-80 degrees at night, it felt like winter. I could see my breath again, white vapor trailing behind me as I climbed. The humidity was still oppressive, but now it felt different, heavier, thicker, almost suffocating. When I reached the overlook, I stopped dead in my tracks. The sky was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Storm clouds were rolling in from the east, massive thunderheads that seemed to glow from within with purple and blue light. Lightning was flashing inside them, not striking down, but illuminating the clouds from within, creating a strobe effect that made the entire jungle flicker between darkness and eerie illumination. The waterfall was caught in this strange light, and the white foam seemed to pulse with each flash, as if the water itself was alive, electric, aware. And standing at the very edge of the overlook, his arms outstretched toward the storm, was Jesus. But he looked different tonight. He wasn't crying. His face was set like flint, his jaw clenched, his eyes blazing with an intensity that made me want to fall to my knees before I even reached him. He was still wearing the same simple robes, but they were whipping in the wind that had begun to howl through the gorge, and in the lightning flashes, I could see that his hands, his outstretched hands, bore the scars, the nail marks, dark and deep and undeniable. "Jonathan," he said, and his voice was like thunder rolling across the mountains. "Are you ready to see what happens to those who refuse to surrender? Are you ready to see what January 15th, 2026 means for the unprepared?" I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. I just nodded. He lowered his arms and turned to face me, and the storm seemed to intensify behind him, as if nature itself was responding to his presence. "Tonight, I'm going to show you the judgment," he said, and the word judgment seemed to echo off the rocks, repeating over and over, getting louder each time. Not because I want to, not because I take pleasure in it, but because you need to understand what's at stake. You need to see what happens when people hear the truth and reject it, when they're given warning after warning and ignore it, when they choose comfort over obedience, pleasure over purity, the world over me. The mist from the waterfall began to rise again, but this time it was different. It wasn't gentle or swirling, it was violent, churning, rising up like a wall between us and the gorge. And in that wall of mist, illuminated by the lightning, I began to see images. But these weren't like the visions from the previous nights. These were scenes of what was to come, prophecy, warning, judgment. I saw January 15th, 2026. I saw it as clearly as if I was there. The scene opened on a massive church, the same one from the first night, with thousands of people, lights flashing, music pounding. It was a Sunday morning service, and everything looked normal. People were worshiping, hands raised, voices lifted. The pastor was on stage preaching about God's love, about grace, about how blessed they all were. And then, in an instant, everything changed. The veil tore. That's the only way I can describe it. It was as if an invisible curtain that had been separating the physical world from the spiritual world was suddenly ripped away. And everyone, every single person in that building, could suddenly see what had always been there, but hidden. They could see the demons, thousands of them, crawling on the walls, perched on the rafters, sitting on people's shoulders, whispering in their ears. Dark, twisted, grotesque creatures that fed on compromise, on sin, on the gap between what people claimed to believe and how they actually lived. And the worst part, the absolutely horrifying part, was that most of the people in that church had demons attached to them. Not possessing them, but attached to them, feeding off them, growing stronger from their secret sins, their hidden compromises, their comfortable Christianity, The woman from the second night, the one who worshipped on Sunday and committed adultery on Tuesday, I saw her in that church. And when the veil tore, she could suddenly see the demon that had been with her for years. It was wrapped around her like a serpent, its mouth at her ear, and she could hear, for the first time, she could actually hear, all the lies it had been whispering. God understands. You deserve happiness. This doesn't matter. Grace covers everything. You're still saved, she screamed. She fell to her knees trying to tear the demon away, but it wouldn't let go, because she had given it permission. Every time she chose her desire over God's will, every time she justified her sin, every time she said grace covers it without true repentance, she had given it more power, more access, more control. And then I heard Jesus' voice echoing through that church, and it was the most terrible sound I've ever heard. I never knew you. The young preacher was there too, the charismatic one with 100,000 followers. When the veil tore, everyone could see what he really was. They could see the demons of pride and lust that had been controlling him, using him, speaking through him. They could see that his anointing wasn't from God at all. It was from the enemy, mimicking the real thing, deceiving thousands. And when he tried to cry out, tried to claim his ministry, his influence, his good works, the same words came, I never knew you. Depart from me, you worker of lawlessness. The scene shifted, and I saw it happening everywhere, in churches across the world, in homes, in offices, in schools. January 15th, 2026 was the day when the spiritual realm became visible, when every person could see the truth of their own condition, when the comfortable lies that had sustained so many for so long were exposed as the deceptions they always were. I saw people who had called themselves Christians for decades, suddenly realizing they had never truly surrendered. I saw pastors who had built megachurches discovering they had been serving themselves, not God. I saw worship leaders who had led thousands in song finding out they had been performing, not worshiping. I saw Bible teachers who had studied for years learning that knowledge without obedience is worthless. And the separation, the great separation Jesus had spoken of, it wasn't God arbitrarily dividing people. It was people's own choices, their own compromises, their own refusal to truly surrender, finally being revealed for what they were. The line had always been there. January 15th, 2026 was just the day when everyone could finally see it. Stop, I cried out just as I had the night before. Lord, please, this is too much. But he raised his hand, and the images froze. The mist stopped churning. The lightning paused mid-flash. Everything went silent except for the roar of the waterfall and my own ragged breathing. Do you understand now? He asked, and his voice was gentle again, filled with that unbearable mixture of love and sorrow. Do you see why I've been showing you these things? Why the warning must go out? Why people need to examine themselves now, before that day comes? I was on my knees again, my hands pressed against the cold volcanic rock, my whole body shaking. Yes, I whispered. Yes, Lord, I understand. But what about mercy? What about grace? What about second chances? He knelt beside me and I felt his hand on my back. Jonathan, mercy and grace are available right now, today, this moment. That's why I'm giving this warning. That's why I'm showing you these things. January 15th, 2026 is not the end of mercy. It's the end of the hiding. It's the day when everyone has to face the truth of whether they've truly accepted my mercy or just claimed it with their lips while rejecting it with their lives. He helped me to my feet, and we stood together at the edge of the overlook. The storm was directly overhead now, and the rain began to fall. Not a gentle rain, but a deluge, sheets of water pouring down, mixing with the mist from the waterfall, until I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. We were both soaked in seconds, but neither of us moved. Look at this storm, he said, raising his voice above the thunder and the rain and the waterfall. This is what true repentance looks like, not a gentle sprinkle, not a comfortable acknowledgement of sin, but a complete washing, a total cleansing, a violent, thorough, uncomfortable transformation. Lightning struck somewhere close, so close I could smell the ozone, could feel the electricity in the air. The thunder that followed was deafening, shaking the very ground beneath our feet. Most Christians want a faith that's like a light rain, he continued, something that makes them feel refreshed but doesn't really change anything. They want to be cleansed without being soaked. They want to be transformed without being uncomfortable. They want to follow me without it costing them anything. But that's not how it works. That's never been how it works. He turned to face me fully, and in the lightning flashes I could see his face clearly. The love there was overwhelming, but so was the intensity, the urgency, the absolute seriousness of what he was saying. January 15th, 2026 is coming, he said. For some, it's already passed. For others, it's still ahead. But the principle is the same. There will come a day, for every person, when the truth can no longer be hidden, when the gap between what they claim and what they actually are will be exposed, when the comfortable middle ground will disappear and they'll have to choose, truly surrender or be revealed as frauds. The rain intensified even more, and now the wind was howling through the gorge with such force that I had to lean into it to stay standing. The waterfall seemed to have doubled in volume, the roar so loud I could feel it in my chest, in my bones, in my very soul. But here's what you need to understand, he shouted above the storm, and here's what everyone who hears this message needs to understand. It's not too late. Not yet. Not today. Right now, in this moment, anyone can truly surrender. Anyone can stop playing games. Anyone can examine themselves honestly, repent genuinely, and begin the real journey of transformation. But they have to choose it. They have to want it. They have to be willing to go through the storm, to be soaked, to be uncomfortable, to let me break them and remake them. He pointed to the waterfall, and I watched as the water crashed down with incredible force, hitting the rocks below, breaking apart, reforming, flowing onward. That's the process, he said, breaking and reforming, dying and being raised, surrendering and being filled. It's not a one-time event. It's a daily choice. It's a constant dying to self. It's taking up your cross every single day and following me no matter the cost. Another massive lightning bolt struck, this time hitting a tree on the far side of the gorge. I watched as it exploded in a shower of sparks and flame, the burning branches falling into the darkness below, the smell of burning wood mixed with the rain and the mist. That tree, Jesus said, pointing to the burning remains, represents everyone who builds their faith on a false foundation, everyone who thinks they can live however they want and still claim my name, everyone who refuses to truly surrender. When the fire of testing comes, and it will come, they will not stand, they will burn, they will fall, because they were never truly rooted in me. He walked to the very edge of the overlook, so close to the drop that one more step would send him over. I wanted to pull him back, but I knew I couldn't. I knew this was part of the lesson. This is what I'm asking of everyone who hears this message, he said, his arms outstretched again, the storm raging around him, the waterfall thundering beside him. I'm asking them to come to the edge, to stop playing it safe, to stop trying to have one foot in my kingdom and one foot in the world, to stop thinking they can serve two masters. I'm asking them to jump, to surrender completely, to trust me with everything, their reputation, their comfort, their plans, their desires, their very lives. He turned back to me, and I saw that he was crying again, but this time the tears were mixing with the rain, and I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Most won't do it, he said, and his voice broke. Most will hear this warning and ignore it. Most will watch these videos and think, that's not me. I'm fine. I go to church. I believe. I'm saved. And they'll continue in their comfortable Christianity, their secret compromises, their hidden sins. And when January 15th, 2026 comes, when their day of revelation comes, they'll realize too late that they were never truly mine. The storm began to subside. The rain lessened to a steady downpour. The lightning moved off into the distance, but the waterfall continued its endless descent, constant, unchanging, relentless. Tomorrow, he said, you're going to share the practical application. You're going to tell people exactly what they need to do to prepare, exactly what true surrender looks like, exactly how to examine themselves honestly and begin the real journey of transformation. But tonight, I needed you to see the stakes. I needed you to understand what happens to those who refuse. He walked toward me, and with each step the storm moved further away, the rain lessened, the wind died down. By the time he reached me, the rain had stopped completely, and the clouds were beginning to break apart, revealing stars beyond. The storm always passes, he said softly, but the waterfall remains. Time keeps flowing, the edge keeps approaching, and soon, very soon, it will be too late for those who haven't truly surrendered. He placed his hand on my chest, right over my heart, and I felt warmth spreading through me, driving away the cold, the fear, the overwhelming weight of what I'd seen. You're ready now, he said. You've seen the comfortable Christianity, you've seen the deception, you've seen the judgment. Tomorrow you'll share the hope, you'll share the way forward, you'll share what it actually means to be prepared for what's coming, and some will listen, not many but some, and those who do, those who truly surrender, those who go through the storm and let me transform them, they will stand when everything else falls. The mist began to swirl around him one last time, and I knew he was leaving, but before he disappeared, he said one final thing, and these words burned themselves into my soul. Tell them that I love them too much to let them continue in deception. Tell them that the time for playing games is over. Tell them that January 15th, 2026 is not about my wrath, it's about my truth, and the truth will either set them free or condemn them, depending on whether they've truly surrendered to it. Tell them to choose, today, now, this moment, because tomorrow might be too late. And then he was gone. I stood there on that overlook as the clouds cleared completely, revealing a sky full of stars. The waterfall continued its endless song. The rainforest slowly came back to life. The insects, the frogs, the distant call of a night bird, everything returned to normal except me. I would never be normal again. I made my way back down the trail, my clothes still soaking wet, my mind reeling from what I'd witnessed. When I got back to my room, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I spent the entire night in prayer, in worship, in desperate examination of my own heart. Was I truly surrendered? Was I truly ready? Or was I, like so many others, playing games with my faith? And I realized something terrifying. I wasn't ready. Not completely. There were still areas of my life I was holding back. Still compromises I was making. Still ways I was trying to serve two masters. And if I, someone who had been given these visions, these warnings, these encounters, if I wasn't fully surrendered, how many others were in the same boat? That's when I understood the full weight of what Jesus had asked me to do. This wasn't just about warning others, it was about warning myself. It was about all of us, every single person who claims the name of Christ, examining ourselves honestly, repenting genuinely, and surrendering completely before it's too late. Listen to me. If you've made it through all 3 nights of this testimony, if you've watched these videos and heard these warnings, you have a choice to make. Right now. Today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when it's more convenient. Now. You can continue in your comfortable Christianity, telling yourself that you're fine, that you're saved, that going to church and believing the right things is enough. You can ignore this warning like so many others will. You can scroll past, click away, forget what you've heard. Or you can do what Jesus is asking every single person who hears this message to do. You can come to the edge. You can stop playing it safe. You can examine yourself honestly, really honestly, and ask, am I truly surrendered? Am I truly ready? Or am I one of the ones who's been playing games? Because January 15th, 2026 is coming. Maybe it's already passed for you, maybe it's still ahead, but the principle remains the same. There will come a day when the truth can no longer be hidden, when the veil will tear, when the spiritual realm will become visible, when every compromise, every secret sin, every hidden rebellion will be exposed. And on that day, only those who have truly surrendered, not just claimed to surrender, but actually died to self and been raised to new life, only they will stand. Tomorrow night, I'm going to share the practical application. I'm going to tell you exactly what Jesus showed me about how to prepare, how to truly surrender, how to examine yourself honestly, and begin the real journey of transformation. I'm going to give you a 30-minute daily challenge that will change everything if you're willing to do it. But I'm warning you now, it's going to cost you. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to require you to give up things you don't want to give up, to face truths you don't want to face, to make changes you've been avoiding. Because that's what true surrender looks like. That's what being ready for January 15th, 2026 requires. Drop your prayer requests below. Tell me honestly, are you ready to truly surrender? Are you ready to stop playing games? Are you ready to go through the storm, to be broken and remade, to let Jesus transform you completely? Because time is running out, the waterfall is flowing, the edge is approaching, and soon, very soon, it will be too late. Come back tomorrow night. Final message, final challenge. Final opportunity to truly understand what it means to be ready for what's coming. You've been marked. You've been chosen. You've been warned. Don't waste it. December 11th, 2026, the morning after the storm. I woke up, or rather, I stopped pretending to sleep, at 5:30 a.m. I hadn't actually slept. How could I? After 3 nights of encounters with Jesus at Cascada de los Espíritus, after seeing the visions of judgment, after witnessing what January 15th, 2026 truly meant, Sleep felt like a betrayal of the urgency burning in my chest. I needed to go back to the waterfall one more time, not because Jesus had called me there, not because I was expecting another supernatural encounter, but because I needed to see it in the daylight. I needed to stand in that place where heaven had touched earth and process everything I'd been shown. I needed to understand how to move forward, how to actually live in light of these revelations. The trail looked completely different in the early morning light. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, and the rainforest was waking up around me. Birds I hadn't heard during my nighttime journeys were singing. Toucans, parrots, the melodic call of the clay-colored thrush. The howler monkeys were back, their morning roars echoing through the canopy. Everything felt alive, vibrant, full of hope, in a way that contrasted sharply with the darkness and intensity of the previous nights. When I reached the overlook, I stopped and just stared. In the daylight, Cascada de los Espíritus was breathtaking. The water caught the morning sun, creating rainbows in the mist. The pool below was a brilliant turquoise, surrounded by lush green vegetation. The volcanic rock platform where I'd stood with Jesus was still wet from last night's storm, glistening in the sunlight. It looked peaceful, beautiful, sacred. But I knew what I'd seen here. I knew what had been revealed in this place, and I knew that I couldn't keep it to myself. I sat down on the edge of the overlook, my legs dangling over the 300-foot drop, and I pulled out my journal. I'd been writing everything down, every word Jesus had spoken, every vision I'd seen, every detail I could remember. And now, in the morning light, I began to write what he'd shown me about how to actually prepare, how to truly surrender, how to be ready for January 15th, 2026, or whenever that moment of truth comes for each person. This is what I'm going to share with you now. This is the practical application. This is what you need to do, not tomorrow, not next week, but starting today, if you want to be part of the remnant that stands when everything else falls. The 30-minute daily challenge. Jesus didn't give me a complicated program. He didn't give me a 12-step plan or a seminary course. What he showed me was simple, but it's so radical, so counter to how most Christians live, that I guarantee most people won't do it. They'll hear it, they'll nod, they'll think, that's a good idea, and then they'll go right back to their comfortable Christianity. But if you're serious, if you're truly serious about being ready, here's what you need to do every single day for the next 30 days, starting today, December 11th, 2026, and continuing through January 10th, 2027. That gives you exactly 5 days before January 15th, 2026. Wait, I need to correct that. For those of you watching this in real time, you need to start immediately and continue for 30 days. The deadline is real. The urgency is real. Time is running out. Step 1. The morning examination, 10 minutes. Every morning, before you do anything else, before you check your phone, before you scroll social media, before you turn on the news, you need to spend 10 minutes in brutal honesty before God. Not prayer as usual, not your comfortable devotional time, but a real, honest, uncomfortable examination of your heart. Here are the questions Jesus gave me to ask. Lord, show me where I'm still holding back. Where am I refusing to fully surrender? Lord, reveal my secret sins, the ones I've justified, rationalized, hidden, the ones I think don't matter. Lord, expose my idols. What am I serving besides you? What am I trusting in besides you? Lord, show me where I'm living for the approval of man instead of the approval of God. Lord, reveal where I'm comfortable when I should be uncomfortable, where I'm playing it safe when you're calling me to the edge. And here's the hard part. You have to write down what he shows you. You can't just think about it and move on. You have to write it down in a journal, on your phone, somewhere permanent, because when you write it down, you can't pretend you didn't hear it. You can't rationalize it away later. I started doing this on December 11th, and within the first 3 days, God showed me things about myself that I'd been hiding for years. Pride I didn't want to admit, compromises I'd been making, ways I was still trying to control my own life instead of surrendering to him. It was painful, it was humiliating, but it was necessary. Step 2, the surrender declaration, 5 minutes. After you've written down what God has shown you, you need to make a verbal declaration of surrender, out loud, not in your head, actually speak it. Here's what Jesus told me to say and what I want you to say every single day. Jesus, I surrender to you today. I confess that I've been holding on to this, justifying this, hiding this. I repent, I turn away from it. I choose your will over my desire. I choose obedience over comfort. I choose the narrow road over the wide road. I die to this today, and I ask you to raise me to new life in this area. I can't do this on my own. I need your power. I need your transformation. I need you to break me and remake me. I surrender completely today. And then, this is crucial. You have to take one specific action that day that demonstrates your surrender, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, that day. If God showed you pride, you need to humble yourself in a specific way. If he showed you a secret sin, you need to confess it to someone and set up accountability. If he showed you an idol, you need to remove it or limit it. Action proves surrender. Words without action are just more comfortable Christianity. Step 3. The Scripture Immersion, 10 minutes. This isn't your normal Bible reading. This is immersion in the specific passages that deal with true discipleship, with counting the cost, with the narrow road, with dying to self. Jesus gave me a list of passages to rotate through, and I want you to read one each day, slowly, carefully, asking God to show you how you're falling short of what it describes. Here are the passages for the 30-day cycle. Days 110, Matthew 7:13-27, narrow gate, false prophets building on rock. Matthew 16:24-26, take up your cross, lose your life to find it. Luke 9:57-62, cost of following Jesus. Luke 14:25-33, counting the cost, hating your own life. John 15:1-8, abiding in the vine, bearing fruit. Romans 12:1-2, living sacrifice, transformation. Galatians 2:20, crucified with Christ. Philippians 3:7-11, counting everything as loss. James 1:22-27, doers of the word, not just hearers. 1 John 2:3-6, knowing him means keeping his commands. Days 11-20, Matthew 25:1-13, wise and foolish virgins. Matthew 25:31-46, sheep and goats. Luke 6:46-49, why call me Lord and not do what I say? John 14:15-24, if you love me, keep my commands. Romans 6:1-14, dead to sin, alive to God. 2 Corinthians 5:14-17, new creation, old is past. Ephesians 4:17-24, put off old self, put on new self. Colossians 3:1-10, set minds on things above. Hebrews 12:1-11, discipline holiness. 1 Peter 1:13-16, be holy as I am holy. Days 21-30, Matthew 7:21-23, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord. Matthew 13:18-23, parable of the sower. Luke 8:4-15, hearing and doing. John 8:31-32, true disciples continue in my word. Romans 8:5-14, living according to the Spirit. 1 Corinthians 9:24-27, run to win, discipline your body. 2 Timothy 2:3-13, endure hardship, deny ourselves. Hebrews 10:26-31, deliberate sin after knowing truth. James 2:14-26, faith without works is dead. Revelation 3:14-22, lukewarm church. Don't just read these passages, study them, meditate on them, ask God to show you where you're falling short, write down what he reveals, and then, again, take specific action that day to align your life with what you've read. Step 4, the accountability check, 5 minutes. This is the step most people will skip, and it's the step that will determine whether you actually change or just feel good about trying to change. You need to find one person, just one, who is also serious about true surrender. Not someone who will make you feel better about yourself, not someone who will tell you you're fine, but someone who will ask you the hard questions and hold you accountable. Every day you need to check in with this person. It can be a text, a call, a voice message, doesn't matter, but you need to tell them what God showed you in your morning examination, what you surrendered, what specific action you took, where you struggled, where you need prayer, and they need to do the same with you. This mutual accountability is crucial because the enemy wants you to do this alone. He wants you to think you can transform yourself through willpower, but you can't. You need the body of Christ. You need someone who will call you out when you're making excuses, who will pray for you when you're weak, who will celebrate with you when you make progress. If you don't have someone like this in your life right now, ask God to bring them. Post in the comments below that you're looking for an accountability partner. Connect with someone else who's serious about this challenge, but don't skip this step. It's too important. The deadline, January 10th, 2027. Here's why the 30-day timeline is crucial. If you start today, December 11th, 2026, and you do this challenge faithfully for 30 days, you'll finish on January 10th, 2027. That gives you 5 days before January 15th, 2026. Again, I need to clarify the timeline here. The point is this. You have 30 days to establish this pattern of daily surrender, daily examination, daily transformation, 30 days to prove to yourself and to God that you're serious about being ready. And here's what Jesus told me. If you can do this for 30 days, truly do it, not just go through the motions. You'll be transformed, not perfected, not sinless, but transformed. You'll be on the narrow road instead of the wide road. You'll be building on rock instead of sand. You'll be a wise virgin with oil in your lamp instead of a foolish virgin who's unprepared. But if you can't do this for 30 days, if you start and stop, if you make excuses, if you let other things take priority, then you need to seriously ask yourself, am I truly surrendered? Am I truly ready? Or am I one of the ones Jesus was talking about when he said, I never knew you? What happens after 30 days? This isn't a 30-day program that you complete and then go back to normal. This is a 30-day intensive that establishes a pattern for the rest of your life. After 30 days, you continue. You keep examining yourself. You keep surrendering. You keep taking action. You keep staying accountable. Because January 15th, 2026 isn't the end. It's a threshold. It's a moment of revelation. But the Christian life is a daily dying, a daily surrender, a daily taking up of your cross. What I'm giving you is a way to start that process, to establish that pattern, to prove to yourself that you're serious. And here's the promise Jesus gave me to share with you. If you do this, if you truly commit to this 30-minute daily challenge for 30 days and beyond, you will be ready. Not because you've earned it, not because you've made yourself worthy, but because you've positioned yourself to receive his transformation. You've opened yourself up to his work. You've stopped playing games and started taking your faith seriously. The final warning. I'm standing here at Cascada de los Espíritus in the morning light, and I can see both the beauty and the power of this place. The waterfall is still flowing, just as it was in the darkness, just as it was in the storm. Time keeps moving forward. The edge keeps approaching. And for everyone watching this, for everyone who's heard these warnings over the past 4 nights, a choice has to be made. You can ignore this. You can scroll past. You can think, that's interesting, but I'm fine. You can continue in your comfortable Christianity, your secret compromises, your lukewarm faith, and maybe you'll be okay. Maybe you're one of the few who actually is ready. But based on what Jesus showed me, based on the visions I saw in the mist, based on the tears on his face, most people who think they're ready aren't. Or you can take this seriously. You can start the 30-minute daily challenge today. You can commit to 30 days of brutal honesty, genuine surrender, and real transformation. You can stop playing games and start actually following Jesus the way he called us to follow him, with everything, holding nothing back, willing to lose your life to find it. The choice is yours. But I'm telling you, as someone who has encountered Jesus face to face, as someone who has seen what's coming, as someone who has been given this message to share, time is running out. The comfortable middle ground is disappearing. The separation is coming. And when it does, only those who have truly surrendered will stand. My personal testimony. I started this challenge on December 11th, 2026. I'm doing it right alongside you, and I can tell you, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. Harder than any role I've played, harder than any fast I've undertaken, harder than any spiritual discipline I've practiced, because it requires me to face truths about myself that I don't want to face. It requires me to surrender areas of my life that I've been holding on to. It requires me to die daily in ways that are uncomfortable, painful, and humbling. But it's also the most transformative thing I've ever done. In just the few days since I started, I've seen God work in my heart in ways I never thought possible. I've experienced freedom from things that have bound me for years. I've felt his presence in a deeper, more real way than ever before, not because I've earned it, but because I've finally stopped trying to control everything and started truly surrendering. I'm 51 years old. I'm single. I don't have children. I've spent my life searching for purpose, for meaning, for a way to make my life count. And I'm telling you, this is it. This is what matters. Not the roles I play, not the recognition I receive, not the platform I have, but whether I'm truly surrendered to Jesus, whether I'm truly ready for that moment when the veil tears and the truth is revealed. And the same is true for you. Whatever your age, whatever your situation, whatever your past, this is what matters. Are you truly surrendered? Are you truly ready? Or are you playing games? Call to action. Here's what I need you to do right now. Comment below with your commitment. Right, I'm starting the 30-minute daily challenge today. Make it public, make it real. Don't just think about it, declare it. Find an accountability partner, look through the comments, connect with someone else who's committed. Exchange contact information. Start checking in daily. Set your alarm right now. Set an alarm for tomorrow morning, 30 minutes before you normally wake up. That's your examination time. Don't negotiate with yourself. Don't make excuses. Just do it. Get a journal. Physical or digital doesn't matter, but you need somewhere to write down what God shows you each day. This is your record of transformation. Share this message. Not everyone will receive it. Not everyone is meant to, but there are others out there who need this warning, who need this challenge, who need to know that time is running out. Share it with them. The honest question. I want you to answer this question honestly in the comments. Don't give me the right answer. Don't give me the answer you think I want to hear. Give me the truth. If the veil tore open right now, if the spiritual realm became visible, if every hidden thing in your heart was exposed, if Jesus looked at you and you looked at him, would you be ready? Would you hear, "Well done, good and faithful servant," or would you hear, "I never knew you"? Be honest, because your answer to that question will determine whether you take this challenge seriously or whether you scroll past and continue in comfortable Christianity. The final image. I'm looking at this waterfall right now and I'm thinking about everything Jesus showed me here. The water keeps flowing. It doesn't stop. It doesn't slow down. It doesn't wait for anyone to be ready. It just flows, constant and unstoppable, toward the edge, toward the fall, toward the impact below. That's time. That's your life. That's the approach of January 15th, 2026, or whatever moment of truth is coming for you. You can't stop it. You can't slow it down. You can only choose how you respond to it. Will you go over the edge, surrendered, trusting, ready? Or will you go over still holding on, still compromising, still playing games? The waterfall doesn't care. Time doesn't care. But Jesus cares. He cares so much that he gave me these visions, these warnings, these encounters. He cares so much that he's giving you this opportunity right now, today, to truly examine yourself and truly surrender. Don't waste it. You've been marked. You've been chosen. You've been warned. You've been given a path forward. Now the question is, what will you do with it? Start the 30-minute daily challenge today. Commit to 30 days. Find an accountability partner. Be brutally honest with yourself and with God. Take specific action every single day and watch as he transforms you from someone who's playing church into someone who's truly ready for what's coming. The clock is ticking. The waterfall is flowing. The edge is approaching. Are you ready?